My name is Eugene Wright.
And I'm Doug Taylor.
And this is More Spiritual Than Lyrical, the conversation.
I love it.
Cool.
Thank you for the invite, brother.
Thank you, man. First off, I'm happy to have you here. And I know it's going to be people from both sides that watch this, right? You got your own following that's super familiar with you. I know they diehards, and I feel like I got the same for what I do. And this is like, it's not really an interview. It's just a conversation, right?
Just a conversation.
So feel free to ask me anything that comes to mind. I'm going to ask you questions that come to mind. But let's start with origin stories. Well, first off, let's get the shameless plug out the way. How this came about so everybody can know what's going on. I got an album coming out, shameless plug, and a book too.
And a book.
And a vinyl, and a bunch of other stuff. Just follow me for that. But it's called More Spiritual Than Lyrical, right? So the idea of this album, in short, is that what I'm saying is more important than how I'm saying it. Like, I'm a very dope rapper. I'm a very dope wordsmith, if I say so myself.
I love it. Hey, if you don't say it, nobody may say it. You got to say it.
Exactly. So, and speaking of saying it, right, I think there's a lot that's unsaid because we operate in two totally different worlds. With you being a pastor, me being a rapper, these worlds don't always coexist unless it's quote unquote Christian rap. And I'm not necessarily a Christian rapper by trade. I don't see myself as that. I don't like the label or the box of it. But I am a rapper that's trying to be a better man in all fronts and realign with my faith, right? So I think that this gives us a conversation to say what's said and how we are similar, how we may not be the same, but what we can do in our respective fields in order to grow. That's what this whole process was for me of making the album. And why not, seek the counsel of, wisdom, seek wisdom in my counsel as I approach this album, stepping back into the rap world and just growing in life.
Yeah, well, I got to say, as a hip hop head, we talked about it earlier, hip hop being 50 years old. I'm 52, so I grew up with hip hop like a brother. I'm back in the old BDP days, Poor Righteous Teeth. I mean, that's what I grew up with, and so it's a part of me. And I'm a music junkie, and so I gotta say, after listening to the album, I gotta say I gotta agree with you. Pretty dope.
Thank you, man.
So it's some dope content. I sent you some of a couple of my favorites. Rap Don't Pay the Bills. That was pretty dope.
Hey.
And I know what's interesting is when you sent it to me, you was like, I know as a pastor, you may not want to listen to it. But I got this philosophy that music of itself is amoral. It's neither good or bad. People don't understand that there are three types of music. You have sacred music, what we sing in church, directly pointed toward God. You have secular music that does not necessarily reflect God, but it doesn't mean that it's detrimental to a person's health. Thirdly, you have what's called profane. Profane is what's detrimental. Happy Birthday is a secular song. We sing it all the time.
Gotcha.
And so I think one of the things that people have to understand is, even when it comes to music, is even though you say you may not necessarily be a Christian rapper, it's still not profane. You see what I'm saying? And so I was like, I can hear something in this. I can listen to this and don't feel like I've betrayed my faith. I'm not looking around to see, hey, who gonna hear the preacher listen to this, because it's not only your expression, but I gotta say, even after looking at the book, it also is not just an expression of who you are, but it shows the evolution of who you are. And I think that's what's important, listening to artists long term, to not just see that this is your expression, but are you evolving as a person?
Yes.
And so I appreciated it, man. I appreciate being invited to be a part of the conversation, letting me hear it before it got released. No, it's dope, bro. It's dope, and proud of you for doing it.
Thank you, man. So I'm glad we got the why we are here. Let's dive into how we got here, right?
Okay.
And you were specifically like, I think from the time that I finished this up and I listened to it in full, it was like, I want to express these thoughts and details, because there's always more than what can be said in a 45-minute album,
sure,
right? But it was like, when you talk about evolution and like evolving as a person, as a man in general, the cool thing about you that made me comfortable with becoming a partner, at the church and having you as my pastor, was that we have similar origin stories. We come from the same environment.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing that I always try to keep in mind, especially with, with what I do now, even when I work with students or I work with younger kids or I work with younger artists, like give them time to grow and evolve. And more often than not, I know that I can be looked at as the example to evolve to, but I'm only able to show where I'm at currently. Whereas when I look at you, it's like, oh, this is a man that came from my environment and I have something to look at to evolve to further. Now, I ain't saying I'm gonna be a pastor, but I got something that I can look forward to grow and develop just to be a better person. You know what I mean? So I think that's important to have that, like I said, that counsel and those examples ahead. So I think it helps bridge the generation gap too. But I guess for the origin, tell me what it was like growing up from the west side of Birmingham in your perspective.
So I tell people I'm a native of Birmingham. I've lived in Winona, lived in Titusville and Woodland. So I got a trifecta of all three hoods. I can hang out on the west side, I can hang out on the east side, south side. So, I've been all around it. But I grew up in an environment, and you're familiar with Winona, that there were some really, really good families. Really, really good people there. When I was growing up, that's when the crack epidemic was evolving, was expanding. So, I watched a lot of my childhood heroes get addicted to drugs. I grew up in an environment where my father was an alcoholic, and so I grew up watching domestic violence like every night, 5 days out of 7, and so I saw firsthand how the pressures of life, if you don't manage them properly, will crush a person. Pressures of life turned my father into somebody that I ain't even recognized. And so having this level of having this dichotomy of seeing these progress, problems, and just in an environment that I gotta make a decision, which am I gonna gravitate to? How am I going to handle this? How am I going to turn this experience into stepping stones? I even tell you this, I talked about starting an entrepreneurship journey at nine years old. It was because I had to, I ain't have all my lunch money.
Right. Hustler's mentality.
You had to get it. And so even with the struggles and the challenges that came in those environments, man, I appreciate who they turned me into. Because as we said earlier, I think I learned way more in struggles than I learned in success.
Very true. I agree. I think what you say, you came up during the start and like the beginning of the crack epidemic or crack era, however we want to label that situation. I like to think I came up in the glorification of it. Being born in the 80s and raised in the 90s. It's kind of like, hip hop went from being this cool, from my research and hindsight, of course, from this cool thing of like, Public Enemy, Fight the Power to NWA, niggas with attitude. It's our podcast.
Yeah.
Gotta be clean.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try to be clean out of respect. But
I appreciate it. No, it's your podcast. I'm on your stage. Come on.
But yeah, coming up with like it transitioned into like gangster rap and drug dealer rap and being a fan of it, like not being young enough to really disseminate it, the Cash Money, No Limit, like coming up in that era, and like it was really about like hip hop music glorified it, but I also lived in the remnants of it where people, they knew the rules and they knew the effects of it, but it was like, this is a situation, let's play the game. So now it's uncles and homies that deal, sell, or it's other people that use, and it's like, I just gotta survive this. The thing I know is for a fact is that when I step outside my door, it don't look nothing like what's on TV. Yeah. You know what I mean? It don't look like Pleasant Grove on the Power Rangers. It don't look like Saved by the Bell. The closest thing is Lean on Me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where's this world that's on TV? I don't see spring bling, ain't no beaches in Birmingham. Like nothing on TV resembled what I actually lived through in my mind. So for me, it was like, just survive it. But in the midst of that survival, it was like, I gotta have an outlet or an expression. I see rappers are successful as a kid. I'm not that good at basketball or football. So it's like, what's the alternative? But then that becoming a form of expression, a form of, confidence, a space of like journaling or whatever it was. And don't get it twisted, I ain't always been enlightened. In high school I was making the same type of records I heard on the radio.
I was buying them.
It was. It took me getting out of Birmingham when I went to college, and then that gave me the ease of not having to live underneath the pressure of the neighborhood, and like, you know, having like, oh, I got 1 or 2 serious songs that I put emotion in. Let me try these at the poetry club events. It's in college. It's something to do. And then knowing like, oh, people actually care about what I say. Let me dive deeper into that. But getting out of the environment is what allowed for me to release, find myself, and then be able to look back at the environment and be like, yo, we survived that. Like, but I also need to go back because there's more people that got to endure that. And now I got family there. I got cousins there. I got brothers, sisters. And it's like, yo, it don't got to be like this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So for me, I think that was my transition of how Birmingham molded me and helped shape me into finding this path as a rapper, and then understanding like, oh, I don't have that. That's saying when you talk about the pressures of the environment, I was able to get out of the pressure to find myself, and then was able to step back in the environment to handle it properly. You know, but I didn't come right back after college. I stayed away for like 6-7 years. Like, let me fully grow into an adult before I dive into that.
I think that's important. I tell parents all the time, I know college is not for everybody. So I'm not naive enough to believe that everybody is going to get a college degree.
Oh no, I definitely didn't. I just stayed out of Birmingham.
You know what I'm saying? You know, but I do think it's important. There's a real benefit of every high school graduate. I think there's a benefit of having at least 1 semester away in college. Yeah. Because you need that time away, like you talked about being separated from your environment. You need that time away to develop your own identity. It creates a certain level of, parents do it right, a certain level of independence and resilience that these students need. The other thing too is you get to explore, really find out how disciplined you are. Because in high school, they're keeping track of your attendance. When you get to college, if you don't go, you don't go. And so it determines, are you really a disciplined person or are you a controlled person? Gotcha. You went to school you went to high school because your parents controlled you, told you to go. Now, when you go in college, it's because you're disciplined. There's a totally different level of freedom in discipline and control. But then I think the one of the most important things is you get, like you said, to see other people in other environments. And there's still some elements of my upbringing that I hold on to. But I see that there's some other areas that are in me that nobody in my neighborhood had, and they may have killed it. They may have told me it was wrong. Well, it wasn't wrong. It just wasn't regular on Powell Avenue, but it's not wrong. And so having this cadre of cultures helps to really define who I am as an individual. It shows up in your music. It shows up in my preaching. It shows up in my parenting, just to really be able to have a broader environment to really explore different possibilities, find out who I really am. And I think that's really, really cool.
Thank you, man. And because it was definitely that for me too. And when you mentioned that, right, like you was on Powell Avenue, I was on Powderly Avenue. So it was like, I probably was the most ambition person in my neighborhood. You know what I mean? When people was putting up, vote for me for homecoming queen. I was in high school, like new mixtape drop. I'm putting my poster on the wall. Like, you know what I mean? So that drive and that ambition is what ultimately led me to just even want to get to Huntsville, Alabama, because I knew people, like, if I got to go to college to get out of the chaos that I'm in now, I didn't go right out of high school. I waited like 6 months, and then it was like, you know what, the street stuff is getting wild, I gotta go. So I went. It was like, if I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna go here because I know it's a music scene here. But I think being in college, right, when you talk about that discipline, like, are you that disciplined of a person? I think I can see how my environment hindered me in college, because it was like, I was always book smart in high school, could have graduated magna cum laude, summa cum laude. I probably was like third just because of senioritis. But when I got to college, it was like, I'm gonna go for something I love if I gotta pay for it. And if I'm gonna take up telecom and film and production and stuff like that, why do I gotta sit here in a history class learning about 1870 history? It didn't make sense to me, because it was like, if I'm gonna pay to learn something, I'm gonna learn what I want to learn. And it was like, all this other unnecessary stuff, nah. Because I had internships my freshman year, and I got offered the job, and they was like, well, you got to have a degree, but you want me to have a degree to make $20,000 a year? That's crazy work. I make more than that now. So it was just like, you know what?
This is math. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave college and I'm gonna take my chances in the real world. But that discipline showed up in my craft, because it was like, it doesn't matter what I got to do, whether I need to work in corporate America for 40 hours a week and work my way up the ladder and house myself, house my rap team at the time. I housed everybody in Huntsville.
You had a rap team?
Yeah, a whole crew.
Hype man and everything.
Hey man, they all successful to this day too.
Really?
So I'm not mad at it at all. I got a homie that just wrote a self-help journey, a homie that did the soundtrack for They Clone Tyrone, another homie who has like a 15-piece band that does touring, another homegirl who signed in LA. Like, no, my music friends are successful, and I know that's all products of like how disciplined I was and how driven I was. I know that became infectious in all of us in our different spaces. But like that discipline allowed me to maintain the household, maintain bills, make sure I handle things properly enough to keep myself alive on a day-to-day basis, but also invest in the dream. And like, it was to the point where they gave me sleep interventions. Like, you don't sleep, you're a maniac. You get off work and work from midnight until 7 in the morning, and that's not healthy. Like, my team would talk to me like that.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that kind of clicked for me when purpose within the craft got redefined was that there was this moment where it was like 25 versus 50. My dad turned 50 and I turned 25, and our birthday was around the same time. Right. They had a cake there, and it had like him on one side and me on the other side, right? And it says 25 versus 50. And I'm looking at this cake and I'm having a mental breakdown.
Oh, wow.
Like, my dad is 50 and I'm turning 25. That means my dad was 25 when he had me.
Yeah.
I'm not even the oldest, so he had like 2 kids, a house, a family, a car, and I'm out here chasing a rap dream. Like, I've missed something along the way, right? So, and honestly, looking back at it, it's like, I really didn't miss nothing. My timing is just different. I see that now, but it was like, oh, I got to get away from chasing this rap dream and sacrificing everything for it, because there are things that are more important. And I think that shift is what brought me back to Birmingham. It's what allowed me to have purpose, whether that's the work I do in the community, the organizations I partner with, what I talk about in my music, like actually being that in real life. It gave me purpose, because I realized like, oh wow, like my dad has a life full of love, and it's more people here at this party for him than it is for me, and they threw a party for both of us. And he's 50 with majority of the people here, and I'm 25 with just my closest friends who are all musicians, and I love them. But it shows that I'm missing something in life. He got kids, family, all of this, and I'm like, I'm not even started on that path yet.
Yeah.
So I think that was my turning point to like put purpose into what it is that I do. Like, I've always been trying to grow and be true to myself in music, but that gave me a different urgency of purpose when I turned 25. Yeah. What was that moment like for you that was like, that led you to be where you are now, if you can remember that? I mean, I've heard some stories like, watching the rim and hearing the voice, but like, what was your initial spark or moment that,
Well, two things I talk about. One is I want to give you another perspective on your 25 versus 50, because it's merging 2 different generations.
Right.
So I'm 52, said it before. My son is 23. And so he took a job in Orlando after he graduated, just about 2 years ago. And I told him, I said, hey, I don't think that's going to be a good job for you. I was like, whatever you decide to do, I'm going to support you. I was like, but he told me what the job was and, what they were going to pay. And I'm like, making that in Orlando, that ain't no money in Orlando. Your money stretch further here in Birmingham, but you do what you want to do. And we had a conversation. I supported what he was doing. But what I told him is, I said, you're different than me. You guys are a different generation. I said, when I started working, I was chasing a paycheck. You're wired to chase purpose. I said, I was looking for the 1st and 15th. You looking for fulfillment. And this job is not going to bring you fulfillment. And it was not a year later, he was like, Dad, this is killing me. He was like, I can't do this. Had a little bit of a breakdown. Because what I told him is, and now he's back, he's started a business, he's working at our nonprofit, works at church, and he's much more fulfilled now because, again, it took me years to think about fulfillment and purpose. Right. I was thinking about paycheck. Exactly. I'm trying to keep the lights on. And so the generation that me and your dad are from, our view was much more limited. Get a job, pay bills, raise your family. We weren't thinking about, am I going to end my life feeling like I made a difference? We're trying to make $1. And so it's a testament to your dad's input and involvement to put you in a scenario that you're thinking about fulfillment and purpose, not just getting paid. So shout out to your dad, man.
Yeah, shout out to
50
him.
generations are great.
Yeah, Big Gene is the truth.
Yeah.
So shout out to him and shout out to my mom.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, so like, what was your spark or moment that led you to be like, you know what? Because I mean, with me, that was the moments like, I'm gonna rap with purpose. I'm not chasing the deal. I'm rapping to touch some souls and touch some lives and make an impact. What was that moment that put you there for, like, you know, for being a pastor and teaching the word?
So I actually never wanted to pastor. I never wanted to preach. I preached my first sermon when I was 12. I told my pastor, I was like, hey, I got a lesson. I'm not a preacher. Let me preach to the youth day. When I was like 17, I always knew God was real, and I would hear his voice. And I was like, hey, I got a sermon, a little lesson. I said, I ain't called to preach. And so I was in my mid-20s. No, early 20s, like 20. All my friends now, we be doing road trips, and everybody in the car, we all high, we all drunk, and they passed out. I had the highest tolerance level, so I was always a designated driver, even though I shouldn't have been driving. But while everybody's like high and drunk, I would find myself, I'm praying, talking to God the whole time. I'm like, I know this ain't what I'm supposed to be. And so, and I know you have more fun. I always knew that he was real. The regular story, I was, all the stuff that they did in my neighborhood, I did. I just didn't get caught because I was, I went to school, I had a job. And so I was 20. Buddy of mine, and I always knew God wanted something for me. This is crazy. We had to doing everything in the world. I had a dream one night, and I had a dream. In the dream, me and all my buddies were running around the city. We're robbing, we're stealing, we're shooting guns, just robbing our stuff. And we all get back to the hideout, put all the loot on the table, and we laughing and drinking. And they all turn around and they pull their guns on me and they say, "You're not supposed to be here. You're not one of us." And I was like, whoa. I woke up and I'm like, this ain't, even though I'm good at it, this ain't who I am.
Right.
And that started me on this other journey of realizing there was more to my life than what I thought. A series of events, meeting my wife. I met my wife when I was on a humbug, wasn't even looking. When I met my wife, I had a girl living with me and she was engaged to a guy. I met her on the humbug. Guy was like, that's a real woman. She graduated college. She out of your league. And I'm like, no such thing. Man, I had a full head of hair. I was a size 32 in the waist. I'm like, no such thing is out of my league. And so we swapped numbers. I talked to her at night till like 4 o'clock in the morning. And everything every argument I was having with my girlfriend, she would just call and she would say something totally different. And it was just pouring into who I was. And she made it easy for me to walk out my path. At the time I met her, you can tell there's so many things that along the way that helped this. I got arrested. I was on the way. I was arrested. I was 20 years old. The judge told me, he said, "You are the stupidest smart guy I've ever seen." He was like, he had my transcript. No, it was crazy. He said, I was going to Tuskegee. I was a student at Tuskegee. Got arrested when I came home on a summer break. I was working at what used to be First Alabama Bank doing taxes. I'm in my 20s, bro. I'm killing. I'm 20, and the guy said, "You're the stupidest smart person I've ever met. There's no reason for you to be here." He was like, "You are only here because you want to be." He's like, "I did my research. I know who your parents are, all this stuff." And he said, "I'm gonna make an example of you." And I got home and I told God, I said, "God, if you get me out this, you got to worry about me no more. I promise you get me out of this." Thankfully, I was 20. I was able to get a youthful offender charge. So my records were sealed. And so after that, I made God one of those, what they call jailhouse promises.
Yeah.
But I kept it because I already had this foundation from knowing he was real. And so, yeah. And last thing is what really pushed me on this, when I really started digging into the Bible, and I think this is dope, I saw how practical the Bible was. I think that's a big deal. So I never wanted to be a pastor, but I fell in love with this word. Everything I learned, I never went to business school until recently when I, got my MBA. But everything I learned about needing to be a father, because I didn't have a great father. everything I need to know about a father, I found in the Bible. I didn't have a successful entrepreneur coach. I saw entrepreneurship and managing money in the Bible. I saw how to be a husband. And so I saw that I can take this Bible and pour from it things and not just get me to heaven, but that's going to help me while I'm here. Bro, I'm sold on it. Nobody will ever pull me off this because this Bible has changed my life. The principles in it. And people want the principles of Jesus and don't want the person of Jesus. But the principles still work.
Gotcha. And I think that's a big part of like the reason I rock with you so heavy too is because like even the way you speak about that in a practical manner, like actual tangible steps that can be done to apply this. It's not like, and granted, I understand the process. We are not Faith University too. I understand the process of faith and having confidence in the unseen, unknowable, and being in that realm too, but also on a day-to-day level to cultivate peace in your life. There are practical things that you can do, and I think I really love the fact that you teach it that way. It isn't always just, hey, this is what happened. You believe it or you don't believe it. You're going to hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't sound like mystified voodoo. Like it's like
mystified voodoo.
Yeah, you know, you teach it in a very real way, like day to day, this is how this shows up. And I think that helps translate it into, for me, that's what works for me when I'm listening to you teach lessons. That's a reason why I joined the church, you know, and I'm okay with having this conversation and speaking with you. So
I'm humble, man. I really am.
Thank you, man.
I grew up, you've heard this story, but the denominational church I grew up in at this time, when I first started preaching, late 90s, I think, you either had to be able to hoop or sing. And I could not and cannot do either. I never forget, bro, I was preaching.
I feel seen now. Can't hoop or sing.
Hoop or sing. Bro, so I'm preaching one Sunday, and I got all my little points laid out, and this old lady put her finger, she said, let me up out this mess. And said it loud. Walked out in the middle of my sermon. Bro, I go home, I'm a young preacher, I'm like, God, if you want me, I'll do what you want me to do, but if you want me to preach, you're going to have to teach me to hoop or teach me to sing. And I heard the Lord, bro. As sure as day, I heard him like I hear you talking. He said, I have not called you to do either, and I will not. He said, I've called you to teach my people how to live. This was in the 90s. He said, teach my people how to live. And so from that day to this, my whole goal is, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's with entrepreneur coaching, whether it's with mentoring or discipling men or in the pulpit, I want to teach people something that's going to cause them to not just exist, but live, to thrive. What am I going to extrapolate from this that I can use in my everyday life? And so every time I talk to anybody, I tell people when I get to heaven, I want people to say, God, thank you for letting me meet Doug Taylor. That's my regular prayer. I want people to say, I'm better because I met that dude.
And I can co-sign that for sure.
Bro, I appreciate you. No, that means a lot for real.
Let's move into the space of the spotlight, right? So with the spotlight, I feel like we both, like we mentioned earlier, in our respective worlds, we're both men on stage with mics, leading people in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Sure.
You know, if I was to compare what you do to what I do, you know, you have a concert every Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And you got your live stream online with everybody every Wednesday. I'm there, you know, for both. So it's like, for me, you know, I only step on stage when I got something new to do, or if I'm called to do something, or if the show has purpose. But I understand that good or bad, people live with, you know, secular music, as we explained, probably more frequently than they live with church stuff.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
So I know, like, for those people that do listen to me, you know, every day, because I'm trying to make daily music you can live with, I may be more relevant in some lives for the world of the people that look at me on stage.
Sure.
You know, and there's, of course, a following that's you're more relevant every day in some other lives. How does the spotlight, like, affect, you know, what you do as a pastor? Like, how much of it is, like, you know, preaching, and how much of it, not necessarily performance in a negative way, but how much is it like this has to have value in order to bring people back in? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you see the similarities in what it is that I do and you do?
So I think the similarity is there's a message and there's a purpose behind it. Like you said, you get on stage when you believe that the show has meaning. We talked earlier about there's certain things that we just will not do,
right?
Because they contradict our character and our morals. And so when I get on stage, you're gonna get on stage, it's because we both believe that we have something to share that's gonna impact somebody's life. So we're not getting on stage just because we need some shine, just because we trying to get paid, just because we trying to floss. It's when I put my mic down, you put your mic down, we both believe that whoever heard it just got helped.
Very true.
That's what it's all about, bro. This is as it relates to me, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. I would have never picked me to preach. I would have never picked me to pastor. I know all of my stuff, and I tell people too, like when I started, I had no Bible training. When I told my pastor, I was called to preach, he was like, go to the Baptist bookstore, get you a Bible, you're gonna preach on third Sunday. No training, no nothing. No training, no nothing.
In the deep end with it.
Bro. And so I started preaching and pastoring church with no official Bible training. And so when people come back and be like, man, that was dope, that really touched my life, I know it has nothing to do with me. I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm not skilled enough. I'm not strategic enough. And I don't deserve the privilege of doing what I do. And it is only because God shows up. I've been preaching probably close to 28 years now, and I still get nervous every single Sunday.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I still get nervous like anytime I put something out because I don't know if it's going to be perceived well. And I feel like for me, right, I always say like I'm the son of the city and culture when it comes to that, because I've wanted to rap since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
Right. But I also like the ultimate contradiction of what it means to be a rapper from the city sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I was in music and more like street teaming for local artists. Like my dad had a small lived rap career, so I grew up in it.
Okay.
Like I saw him on stages, for a little while, and I was around the studios, but I never got to work in there. So the desire in me wanted to take this thing from recording on karaoke machines and taking cassette tapes to real studios to get turned into CDs.
Oh,
like that drive has always pushed me to go further. But then like if we fast forward that same drive to modern day, to like being in the spotlight, like when I came back here, I had songs pulled off the radio station because I refused to play the game a certain way, and it was like I'd rather deal with internet radio. I'd rather sit down with podcasters and bloggers. Like I don't make music for the radio. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna conform to this. And I've never had the formal training either. Like I'd never been to audio engineering school. I never had production lessons. I wish I had kept playing saxophone. I probably played it for 2 years and put it down. You know what I mean? I have no formal training. I'm probably tone deaf when it comes to making beats. You know what I mean? But I know how to write and I know how to go after what it is I want. So anytime I'm stepping out there, it's like, I have no label. I have no label that I'm signed to by anyone else. I have no sponsors or no drug money. This is all me. So it's like nobody can stop me from doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, when I get up here, so when I do get up here on stage, you're gonna have to pry this mic from my hand because I've already paid so many dudes to be here.
That's dope.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
like
dope.
In my mind, that may be that may be vain, but that's how.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's like when I'm there, it's like, oh nah, I'm gonna give it my all every time. I don't care if it's one person or 1,000 persons in the crowd. You're gonna get the same show. And while I'm there, you know what I mean, I want to make sure I leave some sort of impact. So I think for me, it's still nervous because I still carry all of that with me every time I step on the stage, right? And even outside of like the being on stage, I have this conversation I usually have with younger artists, right? A lot of times I don't even go out in public. I don't post on social media unless I got something to say about music. My opinion doesn't exist in those forums. I ain't got no daily status update or this is what I ate today or the president tripping. Like I don't do none of that because one, I need to live a real life in order to have the experience. But more importantly, when we think about like being in the spotlight, when I'm outside, I understand as an artist who's done this for a long time that if people know me, the main thing they know about me is that I make music. And I've been pretty good at it. So it's like, there's a notion of like a sense, there's a sense that I carry, and it could be false, it could be true, it could just only be true to me, is that I belong to the public when I'm outside.
No, it's really good.
In an atmosphere, whether that's, I'm at a concert, I'm at a restaurant, just going to be a fan of somebody else. Sure. There's a perception of like, oh, you never speak online, I don't really know you. I know Eugene Wright, the artist, not Eugene Wright, the person, or not Edie that grew up in Powderly. So it's like, I gotta, because I see you, I have to talk to you. I have to ask you some questions. I want to pick your brain. How did you do all of this? It feels like I belong to the people sometimes. That's also a part of being in the spotlight, which I don't deny it, because I was the same ambitious kid with those questions.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So is there a part of you that feels like you belong to the public even when you're not like at the altar or on stage on Sunday when you're out and about? Absolutely.
Well, here is what, and this is a dope conversation, and we talked about the similarities between you and I, which is really, really cool to keep exploring. But one of the phrases that you mentioned a couple of times was just this authenticity. Mm-hmm. So in belonging to the public, this is just who I am. I owe you the real me.
Right.
And so when people, heard Jay-Z the guy talked about doing an interview with Jay-Z, and he was like, everything you need to know, I already put in the music. When I listened to the music, questions were answered. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so what they'll get from Eugene sitting down and what they get from the CD is the same.
Exactly.
And I think that's what that's what, especially in this social media age, people appreciate authenticity. I was doing some stuff on social media, and and my son, he has a degree in marketing. He was like, no, it ain't got to be perfect, Dad. He was like, it just needs to be you, because in this age, we understand filters, we understand the polish. He said, we appreciate the fact that's just a real dude. You see what I'm saying? And so that passion and being in the spotlight, this real talk, bro, it's not hard. And I don't think I'm in no spotlight. I don't think I'm like a no super major dude. I'm me. Being in whenever I have an opportunity to be in a spotlight, it's not hard because I don't have to switch gears. Mm-hmm. Like what you get on Sunday is what you're going to get on Saturday. Right. It's what you're going to get on Monday. And so the spotlight is no different. The only thing is that I'm just talking to more people at the same time.
Right.
Because all my Sunday conversation, you call me on Tuesday, you're going to get that. You come by my house, you're going to get that same, you're going to get that same work. I'm the same guy. So
you're going to get this work.
Yeah. So I think it's more, this is so dope, bro. And I heard a guy make a comment about, this just blew my mind. He said, it's easier. He says, it's easier to live a life when you're who you are 100% of the time than 99% of the time. He said, because if you live a 99% lifestyle, you're always gauging, is this the opportunity to break mold and be that 1%?
Right.
He was like, if you're the same all the time, life is easy because your standards don't change. The guy told a story, the guy that told me about it, he said he was a killer basketball player. But he was a Christian, and he made a vow that he would never play a basketball game on Sunday. And he grew up all his life from like little league up to college. And so they had a championship game, and the championship game was on a Sunday. And they told him that we were going to play, and he was like, I'm not coming. And he was like, I don't even have to think about it because I've already set this rule before I came in. So I don't have to ask or deliberate, is this the game to break my rule? Is that the game to break my rule? He was like, there's no struggle because I've already said that this is my lifestyle. And I think that's so dope. And people as Christians, people say, it's so hard to be a Christian. Or somebody asks, how do you be a Christian in the workplace? I was like, it's easy. Be the same person.
Right.
You struggle because you have a work culture and a Christian culture. Be the Christian all the time. I'm going to be me all the time. And so it ain't hard. I mean, I'm going to have broken English. I'm going to split some verbs. People can tell I've been to school, somewhat intelligent, may have some level of wisdom. But that dude is from the hood.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get it well. And so it ain't hard. I'm going to, like you said, I get on stage. I put in the work to be me. And I'm proud of it.
And I love me. You know what I mean?
Like, I love being me.
And I have to, it's funny that I always explain that to like my rap homies too, right?
Yeah.
Like, and especially because we talk about one of the records off camera that you like, rap don't pay the bills.
Rap don't pay the bills. That was like, dope, bro.
But it's me being honest.
Amen was dope too. That was cool. A couple of them still got Amen. Is Amen?
Yeah, Amen for Amen.
Amen for Amen, and God versus Man.
God versus Man. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
And that goes with the dichotomy of it all, right?
Yeah.
Because if we start from rap don't pay the bills and just thinking about like being your authentic self,
Yeah.
like rap is such a braggadocious sport, right? Where everybody's, you know, want the spotlight on them to swag, flex, stun, and say, you
and
know,
most
like,
times they lying.
Yeah, they are. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say the quiet part loud, like, hey, this stuff don't pay the bills. It costs to do.
That's big.
I have a passion for it and I love it. But what does pay the bills? My regular day job.
Yeah.
But I also like this same guy you see rapping here, like with, you know, the 2 gold chains, and if I'm really feeling it, my 16 gold teeth. Like, I'm like, I don't have to code switch, but I'm in corporate America where I know everybody in corporate America that's black men had, you know, bald heads and a little goatee, and I'm out here with freeform dreads that go all the way down my back.
Yeah.
You know, I'm, like I said, trying to keep it clean. But if for lack of better words, like, yes, I'm well cultured, I'm slightly educated, I came from the hood, but in a lot of cases, I'm okay with being a nigga in the room because you're not gonna make me uncomfortable.
Bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
And I've already accepted I need to be 3 times as good as what I do because of how I present myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In this space, but you're not going to. I'd rather be 3 times as good to get just as much than compromise who I am.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm from the West Side. I still live on the West Side, and I can do this job just as good as anybody in here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that is what allows me to be successful in that space. And being more successful in that space makes people gravitate to you on a real day-to-day basis. So even like this whole idea of like this being the spotlight section, yes, there's attention on me at work because I stick out like a sore thumb in corporate America. As this guy with, you know, 2.5 feet freeform dreadlocks, but then also like I'm a central figure in the city for the work that I do in my community and being true to that, and I'm known as a rapper. But you know, I'm telling you, like, hey, rap don't pay the bills. This is what I love to do. So it's like, how do you manage to balance all this? Just by being me. But also I have to give myself to people in order for them to see that and to understand that, because I can say it in the music, you still want to test it in real life though.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they still want to test it to be like, is this really you? Like, hey, let me ask you this question about this, blah, blah, blah. Like, you probably get that all the time. You just taught this on Sunday and they still gonna come ask you a personal question about it.
Bro. Nah, that's one of the tough parts about pastoring, man. Is like, no, they don't wait till the next day.
Right after.
I have people come to me at the altar right after service and ask them a question, and they contradict everything I just preached for this past 42 minutes. And you know, depending upon who it is, I mean, the level of freedom I have, I'm like, you need to go back and listen. You didn't hear nothing. You didn't hear anything I just said.
And that's why we're a modern church with streaming services. It's the replay on YouTube,
bro.
Right?
Catch the replay. God dog, man. You know, but you know, I think what's crazy about this, and all of this is circular. When you talked about being able to be your authentic self in all these different environments, I think that's what helps the next generation find themselves. Because you're going to, I say this all the time, 4 things shape your belief system. The environment that you're in, the credible authority, the people that you trust, what you hear on a repetitious basis, and your own personal experiences. Well, one of the things that happens is, by you still being in all these different environments and bringing every piece of you to these environments, a kid who has never walked out of Powley can see corporate America when you come back to Powley. I think that's so dope. And so that opens up. One of the things I think that helped me so drastically was I kept myself around older people.
Right.
Like, I stayed around old people, man. I would go to my buddies' homes, and if they, you know how kids go, hey, can such and such come out to play? And then there's, no, he doing homework or he gone. And then, you know, the dad. So, hey, how's this going? And I sit down, before I know it, I'm talking 45 minutes. I'm 10 with a 60-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it just, that's where I attribute. That's one of the things I really, really pray to do, is help bring, you talked about it earlier, the 25 versus 50, bringing these generations together to realize we're more similar than we are than we are dissimilar. Now there have to be some contradictions, some changes, because life has changed, technology has changed. But at the core, every generation has something that we can deposit in the other generation to help us all be more fulfilled. Like the way I grew up, I grew up, we were desensitized to pain. We never thought about our emotions. We told our parents we depressed. You ain't got nothing to be depressed about. You ain't got no mortgage. So we stuffed it all down. And so we hurt ourselves by keep going when we should have stopped and processed the moment.
Right.
Well, in this generation, the opposite is true. That this generation is many times way more sensitive to their emotions.
Right.
And sit in their emotions too much and put them on pause.
I think what we are, though, we are desensitized to concerns. Like, we don't care about the news. We don't care what's happening in the world. It's like, we got to figure out what's going on with us. And, like, the 9/11 can happen again tomorrow, and we'll have memes ready in 15 minutes.
Dang it. What they say, the internet is undefeated, bro.
Undefeated, baby.
Dude, we don't take nothing serious.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's a part of the generation. But also, like, I think that's going to be a good segue to our next section.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about, being authentic, and also your generation coming from desensitized emotions, us sending our emotions too long, but also being desensitized to have a care about what's going on in the world. That brings me to a section of like the lowlights, right? We talked about how they had the memes ready, the internet is undefeated, but another thing of social media is that people will post their highlights. They post their wins.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't really. It allows for people to gloss over the things that they need to fix, or the things that's really going on, or the internal work that has to be done. So I wanted to make sure I had a section on the album that catered to that, and that's where it get dark in the album. It's hard to get through it, I know that, but it's like that's a part of the journey. That's symbolic for life. Sure. So when you talk about records like Amen for Amy, like for me personally, like the low lights when the camera's not on, when I'm not belonging to people, it's like, hey, I'm semi-successful on the outer world, but also this stuff can hinder me because I'm able to afford all of my vices, whether that's appliances, TVs, living comfortably, having a drink or having a smoke or whatever it was, that I found a vice in at that time, which I don't smoke like that. I still vape. I still got work to do. But
we all got work.
Baby steps and bringing it down. But
I had a foot-long Polish sausage yesterday, so we all got our vices.
You know what I mean? Remember you told me when I was like, is this pork? He's like, you might be at the wrong. But not like those things that we have to do to like grow as individuals that we don't necessarily show the world. I mean, I'm pretty sure that exists in your world also, but I imagine that as a pastor with people looking to you for guidance, they think sometimes it can create like a false sense of like, hey, you got all the answers. It's like, you kind of teach us that the word has all the answers, but they'll sometimes look at you as if you don't have the answers or you don't go through things. And you very open about, hey, I go through stuff, I'm working to improve, you know what I mean? But like, what's that time like, and how do you figure out those things and like those challenging moments, especially in your adulthood and with balancing, being this public figure to a certain degree?
Yeah. I think one of the things that helps is I am notoriously honest with myself about myself. I am quick to point out, you off today. I'm quick to point out, hey, you're not giving your best right now. I'm overly critical of myself. And so in doing that, I found the freedom in being honest with people. So the low isn't low as long because I tell people about it.
Gotcha.
I talk about my son a lot. Like my son is like for real, bro, becoming one of my closest friends. And so I'll share with him like, bro, here's where I'm not dumping all my stuff on him, but hey, here's an area that I realized I should have grown in. or here's a leadership decision I made and it was the wrong one. You know, and I think there is so much freedom. It goes back to being authentic.
Right.
Because the truth about it is I've messed up way more times than I won. I've blown it way more times than it blew up. And those are the lessons that help people grow. I tell all my stuff. I mean, you've been there. I tell my family struggles. I tell my personal struggles. If what happened in my marriage, I put it out there because that's what's going to cause people to resonate. You know, that's what people appreciate. And I've learned more with losses than I have with gains.
Man, that's such a wonderful statement. Just like it's honest, it's true, and it just shows the humanity, you know, outside of what people think the position entails. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
and I really think you help people believe more when you show Superman and Clark Kent. Ooh. If you only show Superman, you become my hero. If you show me Clark Kent, you can be my friend.
Gotcha.
I think that's a superpower, bro. Because for years, and I've learned, I tell people, I'm so confident saying, I don't know. And I had to learn this too, as a leader, giving you answers don't necessarily help you. I'd rather give you information. I'd rather give you resources.
That is, wow, that's amazing.
That comes with parenting though.
See, I ain't there yet.
Yeah.
I'm undefeated too, 37-0, no kids.
You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah. But that's all evolution. I mean, that's the evolution that we talked about, because early on, I read a book, I realized I was an advice monster because I wanted to help people. I still want so much, bro. I want so much for people to win.
I relate to that, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because like I have this weird Superman analogy when it comes to my music career. Like one of my biggest songs is called like Up and Away. Okay. And I've always had like this superhero complex when it came to music. Like, oh, I'm gonna be the savior of Alabama music, or my rap skills is Superman. Like, you know what I mean? There's only one thing that can hinder me. You know what I mean? I don't even know what that kryptonite is. Well, I mean, I know what the kryptonite is, but it's just like, if I start aligning my music, that's my kryptonite. But I got a choice to stay away from that, right? But then there's this, I even got this album where I themed Superman. Like, there's a documentary called Waiting for Superman, like by kids growing up in the ghetto waiting for somebody to come save them. Nobody will come save them. You know what I mean? That's the documentary. It's about inner city kids trying to get into good schools, but it's called Waiting for Superman. I used that as a theme at one point for one album. But I was that inner city kid waiting on somebody to save me. And instead of waiting on somebody to save me, I became the person that saved me. And I also in turn wanted to save everybody there. Right. So, but there was an analogy I heard in my later years, like 30, and it made me stop wanting to be Superman. Because when you look at every other superhero, right, this ain't got nothing to do with music. It's just like, you know, Bruce Wayne put on the costume to become Batman. Peter Parker put on the costume to become Spider-Man. You know, Tony Stark puts on the costume to become Iron Man. Yeah. Superman is Superman. Right. You know what I mean? He puts on the costume to be Clark Kent.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know what I mean? So that he can live
that's crazy.
So that he can dumb down and live a regular life.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
crazy.
He, you know, but so with that in mind, it's like
he puts on the costume to be Clark Kent. That's crazy.
So that he can live a regular life. You know what I mean? He has the capability of saving everybody, but he can't live in this world doing that all the time.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? So he puts on the costume to have things like love, friendship, and all of these other things that we sometimes cherish or sometimes take for granted as regular human beings for the sake of wanting to be a superhero.
Right.
And as somebody who is naturally a superhero, doesn't have to become one, put on a costume to become one. He has to put on one to be
That's crazy.
a regular person. And I think that symbolically made me feel like, oh, it's not my job to save everybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I did enough by saving myself and trying to help everybody close to me. But that Superman mentality or role is really meant for God.
Really dope.
You know what I mean? So
really
I mean, that's random and it's on the loop, but I feel like that's a part of the low light section too, because I also felt the depression knowing like I can't save everybody.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I say that in you know, some of the records like you said, God versus Man, where I'm like, a man, like, yeah, I was a rap god. I'm a rap god to some people because I rap so well. I've done so many things. I'm so successful. I've done everything from freestyle battles to albums to shows to radio. I've done it all.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, he's like a rap god. Like, I can be a rap god, but a god of man ain't shit to a man of God. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I want to be a man of God more than I want to be a rap god. You know what I'm saying? Like, the purpose needs to be bigger than the person that's doing it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So. And even in other records like Spirituals, later toward the album, like what was the bars in that? Trying to fight through our battles, when conversations ain't translated, we lost in the matrix trying to fight through our battles like they was fighting them agents. I'm probably more like the Oracle with the way that I explain it in this confusing way, but I used to think I was Neo, but ain't the one who could save them. Like, it ain't my job to save them. It's not my job to save people. Like you said, it's about providing information. I'm trying to do that through lyrics, but it's a real depressing thing to be like, I can't save everybody because it's people's that I love. I want to save family, friends, you know, romantic partners, like friends that got the same dream. We've been chasing this forever, and it's like the fear that, you know, which fear is just false evidence appearing real. Shout out to my friend that gave me that acronym. But it's like the fear that I may not accomplish this goal is disheartening. It's heartbreaking because I've given so much of my life to it. You know what I mean? And that's something I deal with as an artist. But even outside of being an artist, there are things like, you know, when I get depressed about family or finances or love or other emotions that I'm probably sitting in too long, you know, I may not have the healthiest ways of coping with them.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So it's like there are things that I know I have to work on, you know, that ain't necessarily seen to the public, but I think the way I deal with it is that I have an outlet.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I had to develop an appreciation for downtime. Like I told you earlier, my generation, dude, we were down a treadmill. I mean, you put us on, there ain't no turning off. Right. You know, and desensitized to my own pain. I have sports injuries now that plagued me at 52 that I got at 27 that I didn't go to physical therapy for. Like, I just start back. I got to get back in the habit of wearing the ring. 3 years ago, I'm playing basketball. Went for a steal, knocked my finger out of joint. It's like 45-degree angle. I popped it back in,
Kobe,
and played 3 more games. And I'm like, bro, we we won. But I had my freaking ring. I went 3 years and couldn't wear a ring because it was huge.
Sheesh.
And so I'm saying all that to say we were wired. You push through, you think about the pain after you're done.
Right.
And so as I started getting older, I realized, like, I used to talk about guys that take naps. Like, you
sleep when you die.
You sleep when you die. Dude, I had like 45. And that's the thing. I was like, I realized I'm not wired to be Superman all the time. And I was like, I'm human. I'm like fully human.
Right.
And, you know, I was like, I'm tired.
That's part of my low light section too, being human, learning how to be a human outside of like.
No, I used to tell folks, I'm a cowboy. I'm like, I'm a superhero. And I was like, no, bro. No, I'm way more human than I thought I was.
Yes.
And I embrace it now. So I tell myself, I'm conscious when I'm going too long. I'm conscious of when as it relates to, I was able to set up some healthy rhythms. So even as it relates to my marriage, I mean, shout out, love my wife, love my son, my daughter. But man, my wife has just been a great inspiration to me, and she's a great partner to my life, not just my passion, but to my life. But we have this thing once a quarter, we have to go on a staycation. Like, if we go day 91 and we ain't took like 18 to 36 hours to get away and do nothing, even if it's go downtown, get in a hotel room. She coming home, I'm coming home, but the ice ain't as sweet. I mean, ice ain't as cold, sugar ain't as sweet. We just know our cycle now.
Right.
And so every once a quarter, We need a day and a half, 2 days. We may say, we just gonna stay at home all day and not leave, take no meetings, no nothing. And I'm saying all that to say, I had to realize my rhythms changed. I can't do what I used to do. And I can still be successful. I can still win rings, but I'm Jerry Stackhouse. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know, Vince Carter steered Jerry Stackhouse played so long because they adjusted their game.
Right.
And so there are parts of my life I'm still a starter, but other parts of my life I'm like, hey, I'm coming off the bench. I'm a role player. And as you evolve, I think a lot of guys can't handle understanding that your definition of success has to change.
That's what it was at 25. I just said this in the event I had the other day.
You way further ahead of me. I didn't get that till I was like late 30s, bro.
Well, that was my coping mechanism, going through that mental breakdown. But it was funny because like I said, I'm 37, so I'm 12 years removed from that moment. But I just did an event like Thursday, and somebody in the audience asked like, hey, I'm 25, I feel like I'm running out of time. And I explained the situation, told them the whole cake story. That's probably why it's fresh on my mind for this. But the thing that helped me was redefining what success meant for me. It was no longer chasing a record deal, being the number one rapper in the world, going platinum, getting a Grammy. None of that mattered to me anymore.
Right.
The goal was to make the music I want to make, say what I want to say, and put it out when I want to put it out without anyone controlling what I do.
Yeah.
And that has honestly made me more successful in the same field by redefining what it is that I was chasing.
So dope.
And so like, when we talk about lowlights, that's one of those moments that like is a low light moment that I had to get over, that the public don't necessarily see as a rapper. And I think another thing that like rappers deal with, what you mentioned, like you're more human than you thought. I think the thing that's so it's kind of contradictory because one, like I think with you being a pastor, humanity and spiritual realm is usually upfront about that.
Yeah.
I think as in the field of being a rapper, quote unquote, we don't deal with our mortality well because like there's not music about, you know, having a healthy relationship or a good wife or, you know, wanting to grow old. It's like, you know, it's the most we speak about life usually is like, oh, die young or we survived the trenches. And it's like, you know, even outside of surviving that, a lot of times it's like, you know, we're going to drink, we're going to smoke, we're going to do drugs, or we got the baddest women, multiple women. It's like, it doesn't deal with the mortality of like living a day-to-day life.
Sure.
And I think like as a rapper, when you don't necessarily have the means to live that lifestyle, you feel less than. Or even if you do make it to be successful, you get all those stuff and it's still not fulfilling.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think there's a duality there that doesn't allow for humanity to really exist in rap. You know what I mean? Like I said that in one of the songs, like, I know why the good die young, because rappers rarely get to grow old. Rap life, everything that you want, even if it's bad for your soul. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to figure out like, what parts of this do I leave behind in order to grow as a human being? You know what I mean? Because all of these things that can come into this space of where I operate, I know it's not good for me. I know it's not gonna lead to the best version I want to be. You know what I mean? So really acknowledging like, hey, rap life is not always the best thing for me. I love the craft. I love the art form of it.
Sure.
But being in the midst of it ain't always the best thing, especially for where I want to go.
Well, I think what's dope about that is, what I hear is, you're not using the music for your own motive.
Right.
I think that's go back to the authenticity. I'm doing the music because I love the music, not because I'm trying to pay a bill. And so success for me is meaningful music, not a Grammy.
Right.
I talked to a young lady after church yesterday, and she was, bro, this is crazy. She was in real distress. She had recently moved from North Carolina. She said, when I was in North Carolina, she works for this big corporate company, and she said I was like number 9 in the country, and I was making all this money. She said I was doing all this stuff, and she was like, I felt led to move to Alabama, still working for the same company. She said, and all of my superiors and colleagues are on my back because I'm not hitting the numbers I was hitting before. And they was like, and so she was like, I'm trying to, still be successful. And I'm like, well, are you making enough money to live? She says, yeah. She says, but I want my business to mean more. I wanted to be coaching. I wanted to be life development. She was like, and so I had to remove some people off the team because they were toxic. But the team I have now, I'm pouring into, they're being benefited. She said, but my colleagues are on me because I don't have the same numbers, not being successful. I was like, who defines success? I said, because evidently being number 3 in the country wasn't success because you left it. If it was fulfilling, you'd have never left. And so you can't allow people, I was telling you can't allow people to define success for you because your scale of success is different from theirs. Theirs may be a Grammy on the wall. Yours may, because she told me, she's like, I want to help people. I want to grow, disciple young ladies and mentor them. I'm like, are you doing that? Yes. Are you happy with that? Yes. What's your problem isn't what you're doing. Your problem is they think you ain't doing enough. Your problem ain't what you're doing. Your problem is who you're listening to.
And that sounds like a personal problem.
It's a personal problem.
That ain't got nothing to do with you as a person. That's them.
Absolutely. Your problem is you listen to people that you should listen to. Yep. So. And
they're making their problem your problem. You're accepting it to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
That's what it sounds like outside looking in on that.
Sure. You're trying to, like David and Goliath, you're trying to put on their armor. That's not your armor. I don't. As a pastor, everybody wishes. This is the truth, bro. Every pastor, I can say every. I can't say every. I don't like to speak in absolutes. I would suspect that the average pastor wishes that they pastor more people.
Right. Yeah.
You want to win. You know what I'm saying? You want to reach your full potential. But I think the thing that comes into play with that is you have to ask why. Do I want to help more people so it says to other people that I am successful, that I'm a good pastor, I'm a good preacher? Or do you want to see more people because there's more people you feel like you can help?
Right.
It just redefines success, bro. Success for me is not I need to see X amount of people. Success is I need to see X amount of people go to the nth potential of what they can be.
See, I feel the same when I see artists post like the Spotify wrap up numbers at the end of the year. Like, we reached this many people. Yeah. Like, did you reach who you were supposed to?
Right.
Like, that's, right. I quit posting that stuff. I was like, nah, man, the numbers ain't important. It's
And I would say, I'm sure they have some importance. They're not most important.
Right.
They have some value, but that can't be the carry.
Right. I'm not going to define my year as being successful whether or not I reach more people. Like, do I want to reach more people? Sure, of course.
Absolutely.
I love to go platinum as an independent artist.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I've already won when I put the idea out and made it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All this other stuff is just, surplus. That's the overflow.
Sure, you know what I'm saying? No.
That's still one of your phrases.
Yeah. So, no, this is cool, bro. I'm really excited about this project, man. And I can't say enough, just proud of your growth and your evolution and your transparency in it, because you put yourself in it. This ain't just music. This is the guy.
Thank you, man. The last section that I want to discuss, right, in this conversation is we went through the spotlight, we went through the lowlights, like the things people don't see. I think the perfect place to end it, which I do in the book, and the purpose of the album is God's light, like having that bigger purpose in what it is that we do. I think for me, rap is my passion. That's what I love to do, right? But if I'm not telling authentic stories, I'm not being a voice of reason, I'm not being relatable, I'm not helping nobody grow, then I'm not doing God's work in my music. And that's something that I've not even recently, but just over the past few years, I would say, especially maybe the last 10 years, it's like, this needs to have purpose and it needs to have meaning. And I think that's a driving factor of why I make music. It's no longer like, okay, it's a new year, I need to put an album out every year. It's like, nah, I put an album out when I have something of value to add to the world.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So for me, that's how I see, doing God's work within, my passion. But at the same time of that, like, when I talk about God's light, like, yes, that's God's light within what I do. I think for me, growing to become a better person, puts me on the path of what I desire more than music, because music is one thing, but when I look at everything in totality and in this conversation, we talk about from origin to how we ended up here and to where we want to go. At some point, I know I want to turn the mic off. You know what I mean? And I always make music. I probably make music for the rest of my life, but I don't care to be in the spotlight. I don't care to be on stage. I don't care to be on the road touring, doing shows. That's not necessarily what I care for. But I do want to have words of wisdom. I want to give insight, and I want to be the ultimate motivator. I want to be the patriarch of my family. You know what I'm saying? But I don't also have that family yet, so I have the opportunity to grow and become my best self. This is just holding myself accountable and making the notes for it along the way and documenting it. You know what I mean? So that when I do have a family and I'm married and I'm got kids and grandkids, and it's like, oh, he changed everything for the family. From the origin stories of, Pie to the West End, Winona, to, having structure, having, us having a better chance, us having the opportunity, but also having a safe space, knowing how to express yourself. Like, Uncle Gene, Daddy Gene, whatever they want to call me, Papa Gene, whatever I am in my family, I want to be the example of the guy that did it all and changed it all and made it possible, right? And I know I'm only gonna get there by following God. That ain't something I can do by myself. You know what I mean? So I think that's how I define God's light in what I do outside of my passion. Like for you, is there anything or any similar notions that come to mind outside of like just pastoring and being on stage? I mean, I know that's the main purpose of it, but like how does it exist in forms outside of the title of being a pastor for you?
This is crazy. I make a statement. Some guys love pastoring. Some guys love being a pastor. Meaning, I love pastoring. I love the shepherding, the teaching, the impacting.
The action of.
The action
the
of.
ing.
I'm not in love with the title of a pastor. Some people love pastoring. Some people love being a pastor. On all my social media profiles, all stuff, well, they put one out there now, but I never go in rooms and introduce myself as a pastor.
Right.
Because that's just part of what I do. And I think the other thing, too, is I think it does a couple things. First off, I don't tell people I'm a pastor because when I do, they get weird.
They tighten up.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, bro. You know what I mean?
I got Jordans on.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of times I want him, what do you do? Well, run a couple of businesses. I do some, nonprofit work. Oh, really? Okay, yeah. And then they still regularly be like, pastor. Oh, yeah. Praise the Lord. Like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't always throw out that label pastor. I love the work of it, but I think what really comes into play with that is I don't at this point, I'm again 52. I'm looking at what happens next. I can't define myself as a pastor.
Right.
This is something I get to do. What I'm called to do is teach people how to live. Pastoring is just one of the avenues that I teach people. And so one of the things that I think what hurts is when I was talking about introduce yourself as a pastor, it makes people weird, and then it puts you in this box, and some people automatically just won't even listen to you because they think you're going to be holy and nine, beat them with the Bible. And so I just think there's a great grace in just being free to be yourself, and it just comes out.
Right.
And so I won't do this forever. And I mirror what you said. I was meeting a therapist early on because I was like, something ain't right with me. And so, I was in my late 30s, and she helped me understand that I had developed a Superman complex, as you said, because it's crazy, bro. I told you my father was alcoholic. My brother had to defend us, protect us from my alcoholic father. his refuge was drugs. So he ended up becoming addicted to crack cocaine. So from age of like 12, I had no male figure with my last name. So I'm figuring out life from like 12 to 18. When my brother comes back and he's like trying to coach me, I'm like, bro, I already figured it out now. You know, you can't tell me how to do this. I already figured it out. Well, what happened is that because I had to figure it out on my own and I knew the struggle of it, I never wanted anybody else had that struggle. And it created this mentality that you got to get it for you and everybody else. And so it was exhausting, you know. And so I had to go through, like I said, therapy, to go through some self-help, go through some real reflections. Had a couple of health challenges that I came face to face with my mortality, realized I ain't gonna be here forever. And so in my early 40s, I really started making a commitment. I'm gonna give away everything I have and everything I know, because I'm not gonna be here forever. I'm not gonna pastor forever. I already know. All the stuff that like all of our businesses, they're named after they're named Aldar. My daughter's middle name is, my son's middle name is Alexander. My daughter's middle name is Darche. We took both their names and took Aldar and created all of our companies. So all of them, I created all of them not to keep them.
Right.
All of this was to give away. And so every part of my life is really like, bro, I'm preparing that when I'm gone, because I will be gone one day, the people I leave will be better.
Man, I appreciate you telling that story and putting that out there, because I think a lot of what you just said, that's sort of like the wisdom and counsel of having somebody older, because I just talked about like, oh no, I want to be the patriarch that changes everything. Yeah. That's still my Superman complex showing up in a certain degree, but also knowing like doing it to the purpose of not to have the credit, but well, allow me to be mindful to do it with the purpose of not just for the sake of having the credit, right, or the quote unquote legacy that people talk about all the time, but for the purpose of what it's actually for, family improvement, to give away, to, you know, for it to be the tool that it's needed to be.
Absolutely. Like it's redefining success.
It is. And I man, it's funny, like this is gonna sound like a random beeline topic, but I promise I'm gonna tie it into it, right? This old man had told me one time, like, you know, God do anything for you, but one thing he ain't gonna do, he ain't gonna make no more land. So all day. He was finished with that all day in the first week. So yeah, that's what got me. He was done. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was like that got me. That's what triggered me to get, you know, into things like real estate. You know what I mean? And try to, you know, make sure I at least own the property, and, you know, trying to get into tax properties, you know what I'm saying? But I'm starting with zero knowledge of it. I'm just really winging it, trying to get into it and get it going. But then as I'm researching it, you know, I'm wondering about it, you know, looking at the properties my family's, you know, the families close to me have. And I do the research, and I'm talking to my dad, and he tell me this story of how basically my great-grandparents owned a lot of houses over in the Powderland, West End area. Somewhere between the lines of like my great-grandparents, and it's a side of the family that my dad married into, so it wasn't necessarily his fault. Yeah. But somewhere along the lines of like my great-grandparents down to my aunts and uncles, like I'm talking about maybe like 30 to 40 houses. Oh wow. Just got rid of them all. Nobody wanted to maintain them or run the family business, so my great-grandma either gave some of them away to like people that were you know, had been living in them forever, or she sold some of them. And it was like, now here I am trying to rebuild a family business, start from square one. Yeah, I could have just kept this for us. But also that's same notion of earlier, you know, that's two sides to that coin. One, it could be the same notion we mentioned earlier, you know, hard times create great men create good times create weak men create hard times, and the cycle starting over. All of it could be that, or it could be that was probably my, you know, great-grandparents doing God's work, because they weren't a real estate company. They weren't like real estate investors. They didn't, you know, they weren't Keller Williams or nothing like that. They were just like back in their times when the community was more FUBU. You know what I'm saying? Like they just owned the houses and they rented them out to people. And you know what? Y'all been renting this for so long. Take it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a blessing to another family. I can't be mad at that too.
Sure.
But also I can feel some type of way that we established, like, that could have changed the family dynamics for everybody to change some of the conditions that I grew up in.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
1,000%.
So it's 1,000%. Like, so when you talk about passing down businesses and stuff like that, it's like, okay, I think now that we have more information in the modern day, which I can't blame nobody in my family for that, but like, now that we have more information in the modern day, it's like, I can see the play clearer. Mm-hmm. Somebody still got to run the play, and it might as well be me. And if I can't save everybody, I can at least build a system to support everybody.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a part of doing, you know, the work, you know, because it ain't just for me getting the glory from it. Mm-hmm. It's like, maybe I'm blessed with the insight to see it differently. Like you said, family of buyers, you know what I'm saying? Like buyers, sellers, builders. Like, maybe I'm the buyers and builders. That was the analogy you gave me to move forward with. Maybe I'm the builder now in my family. So it's like, oh, now I have to build. But that building takes place more than just outside of music. This is being built with purpose, but that purpose is an insight that I have by being guided by the right forces, whether that's my close friends, whether that's mentorship, whether that's, you know, getting my purpose pie together, God, all of that. You know what I mean? Like, this is a path that I no longer can turn from or ignore. Sure. Because if it was meant for somebody else in my family, they probably would have been on the path.
That's good.
So it's like now I have to actively do the work. You know what I mean? So,
well, and it's all about, you know, creating opportunities.
Right.
Because my son and my daughter, they may never want one of those businesses. They may want to do so, which that's their choice. But at least, as your grandparents, I want to give you the opportunity that if you want to go into real estate, you got a portfolio. If you choose not to, fine. But at least I've given you options, bro. This is a truth, and some people might not like it, but here's what it is. I told you my son was, when he was in Orlando. He took a job, and I mean, they gaslighted him, you know. They told me he was going to make X amount of dollars, and I was like, bro, that money's not going to stretch in Orlando. But then when he got there, they changed his pay scale. They put him on full commission, which, I love commission, but he doesn't do sales.
Right.
So, and the way they structured it, which I think is dang near legal, that whatever you're short of your base salary on day 365, you get a check for that. Mm-hmm. So we may promise you $75,000. You may make $25,000 for 364 days. Day 365, I write you a $50,000 check. Well, you're homeless by then.
Yeah.
So he called me and he was telling me, you know, his plight, and he'd done it. So he was doing DoorDash, doing Uber, he was doing part-time job. He was doing everything he could to try to make it work. He was like, I just can't do it. And had a hard conversation. I was like, no, I started getting concerned about my son for real mental health. I'm like, he tough. That's tough. And I told him, I said, how soon before you can get your apartment packed up? He said, I can have it packed up by Sunday. I said, call U-Haul, tell him to be there Monday morning. Nah. He got, U-Haul was there Monday morning. He drove from Orlando to Birmingham. He made a stop. He came in Wednesday. He had a job working for me on Thursday.
All right. See?
Now, will he stay? I don't know. Now, I hired him because he's good, not because he's my son. That's a whole nother joint right there.
That's
a whole nother joint, because I'm not going to be a poor steward. I had to learn. This is what I learned from the Bible. And I know we got to come to a close, but this is dope. The Bible talks, when I talk about the practicality of the Bible talks about the wise virgins and the foolish virgins. The five wise virgins, they had their oil ready for the bridegroom to come, and they could go in and they can celebrate. The 5 foolish virgins did not pack any oil. When the bridegroom came, the 5 foolish said, let us borrow some of your oil so we can come in. And they said, we're not going to give you any. We prepare for this. We're ready for the season. While you was out there kicking it, you should have been getting oil. And they closed the door and they never got in. I learned then, I'm not obligated to give you out of sympathy what I gained through sacrifice.
Ooh, that's a bar.
I'm not obligated to give you out of sympathy what I gained through sacrifice. So I'm not going to give you a business just because you're my son. I grinded to get this. This was when I was on that treadmill. Right. So because you got the goods, I'll hire you. But I'm not gonna give this to you just because you're my son. If you my son, I'll move you back and give you somewhere to live until you find a job. But I'm not gonna give you you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm separating being your father and being a funnel for you to go further. As a dad, you can always come back for a little while, but I'm not gonna hire you just because you're my son. You got to have the goods, and that's just it. I'm not obligated to give you out of sympathy what I gained out of sacrifice. That's why I tell folks, bro. You know, what's hard for here's a low light. What's hard for me is I am very familiar with struggle. Most times when people come to me and talk about their struggles, I have to fight saying it to myself, that ain't no struggle. That's a low light. And I really had to work on that because I had to understand everybody has their own level, their own capacity. And so what may be light for me is heavy for them.
Right.
I give them that. For the most part, I'm telling folks, that ain't heavy, you just weak. And I have to fight that. Because my wife and I, we went 3 years and then going into vacation. We were making, this was like mid 90s. We was making 6 figures in the 90s, bro. And everything I bought came out the thrift store. Now we was making us money. We had new cars. We had plenty of clothes. I mean, we was what people consider success. My credit was bad. All my money was going. I was bouncing checks, and I'm like, this ain't living. We started for 3 years. We ate lunch together at work every day. She made beef tips and rice, not because she liked them, but because they was cheap. Everything I bought came out the thrift store. I traded in my 1998 Honda Passport that I bought off the showroom floor.
For y'all that's keeping up, it was 1998.
You understand?
And he had the 1998.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I drove a 1972 Buick Centurion with no air conditioner, 8-track player. My wife had a 1996 Nissan Maxima with the gold kit. I turned it back in. I found a 1991 Oldsmobile with one mirror. And that's what we drove. That's how we lived for like 3 years.
But see, and here's the beauty of it, right? Because we mentioned the practicality earlier of how you teach, and I probably gonna catch some flack too because I was talking about people just getting one private lessons right after you got out the sermon. But you just did it then. Like even when we talking about guys like, right, you taught the lesson of the oil in a practical manner, and related it to your son and how it works on a day-to-day basis, right? So I can see guys like showing up in even how you teach, you know, your own family that you're giving me an example of, and even like having the surplus, like, which I think when you think about like how you said you started living in the 90s in order to grow and be successful in a different way rather than just obtaining things, right? Like I feel like that's the same boat that I'm facing in a different form in a newer generation, right? Like I talked about being successful in corporate America, but I also like recently let that gig go because I didn't want to be a slave to money. You know what I mean? And it was like, nah, my purpose is here. I want to start my family here. I love being in the city. And you know, I'm making 6 figures too. And it's just like, you know what? But is it like, is this my ruler? You know what I mean? Good. But my work is here. My purpose is here. The people I reach are here. The students are here. The family is here. I want to start my family here. I love the city. As chaotic as it is, this is home to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I'm choosing the purpose of what I want to see and fulfill over the sake of money. Absolutely. Which I probably would have to put the rap down and all of that stuff too in order to get reestablished somewhere else. But like, I think that's me trying to follow guys like, you know what I mean? Instead of being paid to go against what I feel like I should stand on. Absolutely. And I think even how you mentioned that with your kid, that's an example of guys like outside of pastoring, that's like raising a family, that's the moral compass, that's applying it in practicality and in principle. You know what I mean? The thing I want to explore to wrap this up, I think is a good place to put a bow on that, is how do we continue to follow that light moving forward? Whether that's us, you know, how you mentioned you wanted to tie in generations. We're kind of doing that right now. But, you know, you being super relatable as a pastor, which is why, I choose to follow you in that regard, and also me being open to what it is that you present, and just bringing our different worlds together, because this is a weird conversation for people on the internet. Like a pastor and a rapper. So how do we keep this going, and how do we continue to follow God's light and be of service to each other, but also for the greater good of just our fellow man?
No, that's a very good question, and I think it's layered. For me, it starts with my personal commitment to God.
Right.
That's the foundation of all of this, because it's that personal relationship with God that drives all my decision making. We talked about the purpose pie. First is I have my spiritual life, I have my personal life, my relational life, my financial life, and my vocational life. My spiritual life guides all of those. So because of my spiritual convictions, I can only treat you a certain kind of way. Because of my spiritual convictions, I can only make money a certain kind of way. You see what I'm saying? And so because of my spiritual convictions, I can only parent and be a husband a certain kind of way. I think without that, anything goes. You're in chaos. You see what I'm saying? Without having this spiritual foundation. For me, my spiritual foundation is a trust in Jesus. I'm a Christian, that's what guides, and that Bible guides all my decisions. I think in that, the other thing that happens is having these spiritual convictions of what guides my life, but also understanding what really matters. Go back to redefining success. I think what redefines success is, for me, when I leave, I want to leave here empty. And the third thing is a level of humility, because when you're used to being the teacher, it's hard to be the student. And so I think we further this by creating safe spaces to have these conversations, to find similarities, to find points of disagreement, but still walk away respectful and respecting the fact that guy has something that I was able to put in my tank. I don't think as a people, as a culture in this generation, I don't think we respect value that everybody brings to the table. And I think conversations like this, put in the music, saying it, whether or not your pulpit is on a stage or behind a mic, having a real message that is going to tell truth, going to add value. And so I think that's what it is, man. I'm grateful that I still have the opportunity to relate to two generations, and that's, I think that's what guides me, man. How about you? You tell me.
One, I appreciate the openness of it. The one thing I always look for, especially when seeking wisdom, is I want to learn the mistakes too.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I grew up in a time where I heard adults say, when we was that young, we weren't that bad. And they just leave it there, but they never told us what they actually did. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was like, man, like, you just make me feel like I'm the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So what's like, but of course, as you learn and you come of age in this stuff too, you can see that your parents or the adults that guided you when you were a child made their mistakes. It's obvious that they made their mistakes, or their life wouldn't be the way it is right now. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we can look and see it. But then there are other times where you can't see it because it's masked by what is quote unquote seen as, successful on a surface level.
Absolutely.
So for me, my guiding approach when I'm working with the younger generation is to tell them the mistakes that I made.
Absolutely.
Like, I never want to treat them like they bad. Same thing we mentioned earlier, giving them time to grow. Never losing track that I was also once just like them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, it's undeniable because I still got the records I made when I was like that, outside of music. But it was just like, in the music space, but even outside of that, like, my track record, my story, it all points to that same type of beginning. So who am I to deny that part, because that wouldn't be me bringing my full authentic self.
Absolutely.
So I think one, being comfortable with bringing your full self in any space, as we do, but with bringing your full self doesn't mean being disrespectful.
Absolutely.
And also, as people bring their full selves, it means accepting who they are, what they are, how they are, and also going out of your way to meet people in a certain space. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
who may or may not think like you.
Exactly.
And I think that's wisdom, to sit in spaces where there are some differences.
Exactly, because
you gave a shout out to, you talked about music and more. Mr. Rashid was one of my mentors. Mm-hmm. He was Muslim, I was a Christian, and he taught me about business. He taught me about fathering. He taught me about the Quran. He taught me stuff about the Bible. But you have to be brave enough to be in spaces where you don't have to be the teacher.
I think it's funny you mentioned that. Like you said that earlier, and I was like, man, he's hitting it on the nose with a hammer. Like, I had a song that I put out. This album is a 10-year anniversary of another album I did called Universal Understanding. And in that song, I have a bonus record called Students, but in it says, students become the teachers, don't shit on the young niggas. One day you're going to really need them. Like, you know what I mean? So I said that 10 years ago, just like to hear you say it gives me confidence and it affirms that I feel like I'm stepping, my bad, Chris. It feel like I'm stepping on the right path.
Yeah.
So 10 years later, me be doing an anniversary album, but to hear you say that, it's like, okay, keep going. And not even just keep going on the rap stuff, but keep walking the path. You're growing in the right direction. Another thing you mentioned, like, being in that space where there are differences, then there are conflict. I think we as a people, we have to do a better job of our relationship with being wrong.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because one, that's going to allow you to share the mistakes, as I mentioned earlier. But two, it's okay to be wrong, because that presents an opportunity to learn something.
Absolutely.
I think people miss that. They just look at it like, oh, you got the wrong answer, and they just hit a buzzer. It's embarrassing to be wrong, but It's like, being wrong is okay. It can be something to be celebrated, because that means you have an opportunity to learn something.
Absolutely.
So to either learn something, add something, or grow in some way. You know what I mean? So I think that's how we continue to do the work. That's how we continue to move forward. It's hard to pour into a full cup. You know what I'm saying? If you know it all and you're always right, it's gonna be kind of hard to really grow. So I think that, that's how we continue to follow God's, like, and staying humble in that, like, knowing, like, I don't always have the answers. Most of the time I probably don't. I'm open to seek them, learn them, and take them in whatever format they come, whether it's from my pastor or my homies in the hood.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna stay open to it all.
Absolutely.
So I think that's how we do it.
I think that keeps us rounded, keeps us relatable, and it allows us to bridge those gaps.
Yes.
One of the problems with social media is it reinforces our beliefs.
Yeah, the echo chamber.
The algorithm knows what you like, and it just funnels you more of what you really believe. It closes your mind to other possibilities. And so I think we have to be strong enough to sit in other spaces, even like this, preaching and rapping, to have dialogue, hear your vantage point. Hopefully you can see mine and see, that there is a whole lot of truth and guidance that came from a rap CD that we need to value. So I think the music is, again, I talked about the evolution of music. It needs to make a difference. When somebody hears this, they're not just going to hear how to cook up a brick. They're going to hear about mentorship, and they're going to hear about, which I think everybody needs to copy it. Everybody needs to get it, because
shameless
you're going to get something. Shameless plug. You get something that you can use. One of the things that's dope is I talk about music. You even talked about, like, my grandkids could listen to some Poor Righteous Teachers and learn something.
Right.
I would never let my kids listen to NWA. I'd never let my grandchildren listen. Now, I grew up on NWA. I loved it. I loved it. E for Zagging, dude. I love that. That's what I was. But
I also know the effects of it, because I lived through it.
Absolutely. But I can let my grandchildren 20 years from now listen to something that KRS-One said. And there's some I don't follow as much current rappers. Now I did listen to Clips, the Clips CD.
Yeah.
The production on Clips is dope.
That was hard.
The production is dope.
It's like a Martin Scorsese gangster film.
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful. It's beautifully done. I can't be mad at it. The art in it is the art.
Sure. But it goes back to what you said about being, more spiritual and lyrical. It's not just that it sounds good, but it actually deposits something that's going to help. And I just appreciate anything that's going to help people get better, whether it's music, whether it's a sermon, whether it's a class, whatever it is. We in the business of making people better, bro.
Exactly.
So, and you've made me better with this conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. You've made me better in order to have this conversation. This is a residue of what you've deposited into me since you came into my life. And what I would say, like, yes, listen to him. Go get the album. But
I need to make an album. Yeah.
But what I want you to take from the album is that it's okay to start your own spiritual walk.
Sure.
This is just a product of mine. You know what I mean? So you're getting to see me do it firsthand. I ain't telling you to do something I ain't done. You know what I mean? Like I'm walking it and I'm learning it as we go. I ain't no finished product. You know what I mean? But it's okay to start. It's okay to seek it. It's okay to find it in your own way. That's what I want people to take away from not only the album or the book, but this conversation in general. And that it's more steps to come. It's more things to grow. Who knows? We might have to do this again and tap in another time.
Absolutely.
If you got an idea for something.
No, it's a journey. Purpose is a journey. Purpose is not a discovery. It's a journey. People think they're gonna hit this one decision, this one thing, and let's know the purpose of life. It's not it, bro. It's a journey that happens over a series of interactions and exchanges and experiences and information. It's a journey, dude.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming through and having this conversation, taking this conversational journey with me. I would be greatly remiss if, people didn't sit through 5 episodes of this, however much we divided up into 4 or 5 episodes of this. But tell people how they can get to you, what you got going on.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Doug Taylor, I do happen to pastor a church. I think it's a pretty dope church, Rebirth Christian Fellowship. We all are on all the sites, Facebook, YouTube. I found out Facebook is for old folks. I love Facebook.
Me too.
Doug Taylor on Facebook. I got TikTok is really doing, man, I did some stuff on TikTok and it's getting a lot of attention, which is pretty dope. My son is making me do it. I don't care about it. I'm on Facebook. But no, I mean, they can check us at our church, Rebirth Christian Fellowship. Check me out on all the socials, Doug Taylor. And you're going to get some Jesus and some jokes. That's what you're going to get.
Well played. Well, thank you, Pastor
Hey, bro,
Taylor.
I appreciate you, man. It was an honor.
Likewise.
Yo.
If you haven't heard, Sit Down Sessions is a one-of-a-kind experience started right here in Birmingham. Come out to hear some of the best talents in the city as we provide you with lyrics and highlighters to choose your favorite lines and ask the creators themselves what it all means. We have a dope lineup with sounds by The Phasing Octopus, G.I. Magus as the host, along with special guests Specs the Great and Seven Rich. Can't forget about myself. My name is Eugene Wright, and we'll not only be celebrating my birthday, but the release of my new album and book, More Spiritual Than Lyrical. Advance tickets are $20 and includes lyrics, seating, and the Sankofa Suite gear bundle. For those that want to level up their experience, the Plus Pack gets an included copy of the new book and CD. The Max Pack gets you an additional book for the Ubis Cube and official art poster, while the Ultra Pack gets everything mentioned, plus a t-shirt, hat, and the album on vinyl. We may have to ship that to you. So get your tickets now and pull up to the Greenhouse at 602 19th Street, Ansley on Friday, September 5th. Can't wait to see you at the Sit Down Sessions 4, More Spiritual Than Lyrical, brought to you by The Flourish and Sankofa Suite, a creative culture company.